Hi guys and welcome to YakWaxLips. My name is Michael, your point and click adventurer, and this is not YakWaxLips, an adventure game podcast. I've rebranded. I've renamed it. It is called The Point and Click Adventurer. What do you think? It's on brand, isn't it? Better than the Adventure Game Podcast, mainly because the Adventure Game Podcast is already an awesome podcast that is out there. Saoirse and the team do a fantastic job of interviewing developers and talking about games. They have over 100 episodes already. I've devoured probably over 50 of them in the past year or so. I will put a link in the description to their podcast, so check that out. But yes, the Adventure Game Podcast is now, YakWaxLips, the Adventure Game Podcast is now called The Point and Click Adventurer. There, out the way. So what's on this episode? It's not going to be a huge one. I'm not going to delve into a lot of news, but what I am going to do is talk to Jonas Fish. Now, Jonas is the creator of Common Colours, who have just released the Kickstarter for Prim. Now, Prim is an adventure game, a completely black and white adventure game where you play as Prim, who is the Devil's daughter. You may have seen on the channel about a month ago that I managed to play through the demo. They released a demo which was about half an hour long, and you can play that demo for free as well. Again, link in the description. But they've just released a Kickstarter. And so I managed to speak to Jonas about the game, about the Kickstarter, about what Prim is, and all things adventure game stuff. That was a good fun chat. Before we go into that though, it would be awesome if this is your first time here. Hello, my name is Michael, your point and click adventurer. Please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps. It generally shows the YouTube that adventure game content is well and truly alive. And whilst you are down there, hit the subscribe button, because I only create adventure game content, from old school things like Monkey Island and Broken Sword through to new games like Prim. So, two more pieces of news before I head into the interview with Jonas. The first one is I've started an adventure game Facebook group for all you adventure game aficionados. So if that sounds like something that you want to join in on, basically we go over there and we talk about adventure games, put polls up and share videos, share the Prim Kickstarter. Just type in Point and Click Adventurer and it will come up there. It'll be a red banner and it's got Laverne from Day of the Tentacle in the banner thing up there. And yeah, just come and join me over there. It's good fun. Again, link in the description. And the final piece of news is, you may have noticed my awesome Simon the Sorcerer t-shirt. I've teamed up with 7 Squared, who create these amazing t-shirts. They are completely 100% I was going to say guaranteed. They are completely guaranteed, but they are official. They are licensed from the company, so it's not some knockoff. Really good quality. And yes, I've teamed up with those. So if you want to get yourself a Simon the Sorcerer t-shirt, let me give you a profile. Let me show you. Excellent work. It's been through the wash about 5 times already. And it's still really cool. So if you want to get this t-shirt, or they've got loads on there, I'm going to get a sensible soccer one next. Just head to the link in the description below. And disclaimer though, it is an affiliate link, which means that if you click on that and buy something, I get a few pennies in return. It doesn't make it any more expensive for you. It just helps me continue to run this channel and continue to run YakWaxLips. And I think that is all my news. So stick around till the very end, because I'm just going to announce. I'm going to tell you a little bit more news. But yes, thanks for watching this far. And here is Jonas talking about Prim. Welcome back to the Point and Click Adventurer podcast. My name is Michael, and I'm joined today by Jonas Fish, who is the head honcho at Common Colours, who have just created, or are in the process of creating, Prim. An adventure game coming out in 2022 about Death's daughter, and a Kickstarter has just been launched. So I'm going to talk to Jonas about all that. So welcome, Jonas, and how are you? And tell us all about Prim and stuff.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Prim is a 2D point-and-click adventure game about Death's daughter, which means you play Prim, Death's daughter. And her main issue in the game is she has the same dream over and over again. She's dreaming of a human boy crying out for her help. The problem is that her father would never allow her to travel to the land of the living because he says it's too dangerous for you. So the player's first goal will be to escape the realm of the dead to the land of the living. And this is the situation the player finds him or herself in the demo.
Fantastic. Now the game is, it looks beautiful. In your bio, you say you're influenced by Tim Burton and Terry Pratchett and LucasArts Monkey Islands in particular. So just delve into your influences just a little bit more for me, if you can do.
Okay, quite obviously, my adventure game influence stems from my own childhood, since I'm a big point-and-click adventure fan myself, basically since I'm about 10 or 11 years old, when my uncle came to visit at my house with a burned CD-ROM of Day of the Tentacle. And this is when I fell in love with the genre, with the genre, and never stopped loving it, actually. So when I started making games a couple of years ago, it was quite the obvious choice for me. I'm going to make adventure games. And of course, you mentioned Monkey Island. Of course, Monkey Island is the reference, and I almost hesitated to quote it as one of the influences because it has been quoted too often, I guess. But yes, of course, this is one of my main influences, my main personal influences. On the other hand, there's the visual side and the whole atmosphere that derives from the animated films of Tim Burton, which I also like very much personally, but also I thought there has to be a game with this particular mood that these films convey. I love these films because they are creepy and give you goosebumps all the time, but yet they are lovable and family friendly most of the time. And I wanted to create a game that is exactly that. And luckily found a great comic artist from Mexico called Oscar Alvarado, who has a very similar art style and who created the look of the characters in Prim. Terry Pratchett, of course, is another name that has to be mentioned when it's about making a game about Death's daughter, since he's an author that also wrote about that exact topic and also combined the character of Death himself with a humorous approach. And I think this is why he's one of my role models, and because I simply love that kind of humor.
The decision to create the entire game in black and white is quite a strong one. It seems to work in the demo. I really enjoyed that. So, but why did you decide to do it in black and white?
It's a hard question to answer, actually. Mostly because of that particular art style that was carried out by Oscar that I mentioned earlier. Because most of his comics that he draws are in black and white. And this is what makes them so beautiful, in my opinion. They have these really strong contrasts. And this is something really eye-catching, in my opinion. I've never thought about making a black and white game before making Prim, actually, but when I looked at this visual, the striking thing was the absence of color. And there comes the moment from time to time where testers or community members come up with the idea, why don't you include a color at a special point in the game? To highlight the player goal, for example, or to have a surprising element, or maybe in the Land of the Living to make a contrast between the two worlds. And every time such a concern comes up, I think about it, and I tend to say no right now. But the game, as you know, is still in development. Maybe someone will be able to convince me, but the plan right now is no, it will be black and white only.
The black and white really does look striking. It's hard to imagine what it would be like without it, in colour, now that I've played the demo. Now, I've got you on, mainly because, yes, Kickstarter has just been launched. So let's delve into it and explain more about what you're asking for in the Kickstarter and what it's all about.
Yeah, of course. I have to start from the beginning, actually. It's been a couple of years, actually, since I have started working on Prim. I drew my first scribble in my scrapbook about 2 or 3 years ago. And I spent the last 2 years assembling a cool team and basically writing the game. So the game already exists, but it exists in my notebooks and in my numerous files on my computer, which are all backed up, of course. So all we have to do now is actually make the game. And what we could do in about a year past, we created a demo that is as polished as possible. So basically, the existing part of the game is that prototype. This is what's existing. Of course, there are more character drawings or concept art and basically a structure that is already been planned out. But this is the state of the game. It's a prototype, and we're confident that we'll be able to finish it in about a year and a half. So we're aiming for release in late 2022.
The thing with Kickstarters as well is you get to not only create the game, but you get to create extra things as perks. And one of the things that I really like is the doll, or the dolls that you've got. Tell us about those.
I'm really happy you like her. Yeah, of course. When you run a Kickstarter campaign, you have a lot of creative potential to unleash before doing so. And the cool thing about this is that it is a community-driven thing. And since I spent the last months or so building up such a community, and a really nice, kind, creative, funny community, I thought this would be the way to go. We have to do some sort of crowdfunding thing. So I started reading a lot about Kickstarter, and naturally you also brainstorm rewards. And what we came up with is the following. The main rewards are, of course, digital, because I think for indie developers, these are simply more rewarding in terms of you don't have to produce them and so on. But of course, some people will ask or ask for physical stuff. So I wanted to include some of those too. And you already mentioned the doll. Let's start here. A couple months ago, or was it a couple years ago already, I met a really nice young woman from Greece online who makes handmade dolls and sells them via Etsy and Instagram. And after talking to her, she made a Prim doll for me and fell in love with the project as well. So we thought, why don't we collaborate on that Kickstarter? And she's producing Prim dolls for the backers in 2 sizes. They reach from very tiny to about this size. And depending on your reward tier, you can buy such a doll. But they're strictly limited because they're handmade. And this is actually the main difference between the Prim campaign and many other campaigns that I've seen, which are also cool, of course. But we only sell handcrafted stuff. The Prim doll is handmade. And the other thing that appears in the Kickstarter trailer is the big box of the game, which isn't made of cardboard, but it's made out of wood, actually, because it's a coffin. It's the obvious choice again. When you make a game about Death's Daughter, the big box version has to be a coffin, of course. And this is the second handmade thing. And there will be some additional surprises, which I will not give away just yet, in the add-ons that will be released later, but they will also be handcrafted.
Now, going back in your own personal career, you started out with a few smaller games, and now so Prim is essentially your first full-on game. So why did you start out with Prim as your first game, and what do you think you've learned from those earlier games?
I think for me personally, it was absolutely the right choice to start small. And this is actually the piece of advice that I tend to give developers starting out. Start with something whose scope you can control in a short amount of time. Don't get overwhelmed too soon. I'm so happy that I started making games with, or in the context of game jams. And for the annual Adventure Jam hosted by some really cool people on Game Jolt, I created 3 short games every year and basically experienced what the term crunch time means within 2 weeks each. But I had something that was finished and I could collect feedback afterwards. And this feedback was, first of all, very kind and cool and positive, and it encouraged me to keep going. And secondly, it was the experience of really releasing something is so valuable that it motivates by itself. So I needed to do something bigger at one point because, as I told you already, I fell in love with the genre playing these LucasArts titles. And of course, if you start making these games, at some point you say, okay, I want to do something like that. I want to do something bigger, something that takes 6 hours or 8 hours to complete. And I started brainstorming concepts, and I was looking for a concept that I knew this would keep me going for a lot of years, because I somehow realized, okay, this is going to take a while. And I'm so happy that I chose Prim. I think I learned everything doing these 3 short games because I started basically from nothing. I have to be honest right here. I'm not a learned game developer or programmer or whatever. I'm actually a high school teacher. I have to congratulate on you on your very good research. You know almost everything about my game. Maybe you know this as well. I teach English and ethics and philosophy at a German high school, and this is my real profession. And so far I've been making games in my free time. For Prim, I decided to found a company last year, and this is also my part-time profession right now. So I'm taking things more seriously now. And hopefully this will be crowned by success in the end.
Now, leading on to the fact that yes, you are a teacher, because Prim is presumably going to take on quite a hefty role in your life for the next 18 months or so. Can you see yourself becoming a full-time developer at all and dropping the teaching?
Another hard question. As a teacher, workload tends to differ, and I don't want to create a stereotype of teacher having nothing to do in the afternoons, because this isn't true. In a phase where my students write a lot of tests, I'll be stuck at my desk for all the evening. But there are the holidays, of course, and there are the weekends, and there are times where I simply take the time. I think you cannot say I don't have the time. For something that you love, you will take the time, and this works out quite well. At least for now. But of course, with the help of the Kickstarter and the money that is hopefully raised there, I will be able to enlarge my team, maybe hire a second programmer. So I will be able to reorganize my working process and, of course, push away some of the responsibility from myself and to others who might be even better at doing so. So this might be a plan. I'm not quite sure if I'm ever going to stop being a teacher, because I actually like being a teacher pretty much. And I'm a federal agent, so I can't quit, basically. I'm there, I'm in for life. But I also like that, actually.
Now, it's not unusual for development teams to be based all over the world, and that's exactly what Common Colours is. So you're not based in one central place. But how do you create that team? What does your team look like, and how did you guys meet?
It depends on who we are talking about. I've met a couple of my collaborators during my game jam time. I found my really cool background artist Sasha creating my second game, Sidekick High, and he's also from Germany, and he's also a big adventure game fan. And I think we met online because he commented on my first game, The Diary of a Roadie, and he really liked it. And I just wrote back and found out he's making art and really liked it. And then we started to work together. And this is also the cool thing about forming a team. In the ideal case, you also form friendships. I also met my composer and musician Brian. By making my second game, Sidekick High, and he's been my house composer since then. So basically, this is one part of the team I knew from making these short games, and the other part I met through extensive research. I was searching forums for Blender, for the graphics program Blender, or voice actresses websites. Story of a team member I met is how I met the German voice of Prim, which is Friedel Morgenstern. And Friedel Morgenstern is a German voice actress who only or exclusively voices AAA products. I mean, she's the German voice of Alex Dunphy from Modern Family, for example. This is where I know her from. And I just found the courage to write her a message on Facebook, because she didn't have a website or anything. And I looked her up on Facebook and I wrote a message, and she said yes. And later I asked her, why did you do it? Why did you say yes? And she said, because you asked so kindly. And this was a very nice compliment for me. And we had a really nice recording session. And this is the coolest story of a team member that I could convince working on Prim with me.
Now, it is early on in the development, but do you have an idea about how long the game is going to be when it's all completed?
if I calculate correctly, but I think you cannot really calculate correctly at this state of development. But my aim is to have something that is playable in about 6 to 8 hours. So it's going to be much larger. The people who have already played, many of them told me that they would love to find out what's outside of Thanatos' house. Thanatos is Prim's father, and they would love to find out what does the realm of the dead look like. And I would like to offer you that possibility to explore the realm of the dead and beyond, of course, and explore a much larger area.
Now, this next question, it always intrigues me because I'm not an adventure game developer in the slightest. I play a load of games, but I never develop them. The puzzles. How do you come up with a puzzle in an adventure game?
I think there is no one approach of how you create adventure game puzzles, and it's a science of its own, I guess. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter regularly, but every Monday I make a poll on Twitter about adventure game design, and opinions vary greatly. And this is also very cool, actually. When it comes to Prim, I took a different approach than with my other games. I started creating that world first. And then I came up with, okay, what kind of items are part of this world? And with this knowledge about the world and the items and characters you find in it and the relationships that they might have and their background, then I started to come up with puzzle ideas. Because when you do it the other way around, the danger is that you start implementing items or characters that don't fit in with the environment they live in. So I tried to create the world first and make sketches of the backdrops and so on, and try to figure out, okay, what kind of items are there. For example, when it comes to Thanatos, his study is full of things that have to do with music, because my idea was, okay, Death is a music fanatic and he loves everything that has to do with music. And if you look closely, there is a banjo scythe at the wall, for example, and also an item that has to do with music that is essential for solving the demo. And this is basically what I did with each and every puzzle in the game. I created a story behind the story, or a world or character that has a certain motivation, and then I created the puzzle afterwards with things that needed to be there because of the character. When a character shows his house, he or she will have things that he likes there. And then I used these things to create the puzzles.
Thank you so much for talking to me, Jonas. It's been an absolute pleasure. And where can people find you and find out about Prim?
The easiest one is the official website. It's prim-game.com, or you can look me up on all social media, and I'm mostly called Prim Adventure on Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. This is where you can find me.
That's fantastic. I'll put all those links in the description, so you guys watching, listening can go and support the game, and go and follow them on Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz. Jonas, thank you very much and good luck.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. It was a really nice conversation, even though it was cut off all the time. But you were great. You were doing great.
So that was Jonas. The Kickstarter is a go. It's go now. So if you like the look of it, link in the description below. And go and support those guys. A little while before the game actually comes out, but games take a long time. So yes, I did allude to some news at the end. It's not really news, it's more YakWaxLips news. I have started a Patreon quite a while ago and didn't really promote it, but if you like what I do, I would really appreciate it if you want to support me monetarily. Pretty sure that's a word, I'm going to stick with it. And then head into the description and join the Patreon. I'm not really sure on awards or anything like that I'm going to give out. But yes, from I think it's about $2 a month, everything that comes my way, I will throw back into YakWaxLips. I recently hit a target of mine and managed to grab this awesome Blue Yeti microphone instead of my rubbishy headset. So hopefully the audio on this is a little bit better. And yes, that is my news from YakWaxLips, and I hopefully see you again soon. There you go. Let me know in the comments below if there's any games that you want me to cover or what you're playing right now. And until next time, have a wonderful morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is you're doing right now. Take care.